Hey guys, Dustin here. Today I want to talk about my DIY shallow water anchor system, or kind of spike system I've created here. So I've built this based off of products that I already see available for sale. The big difference is they're just too expensive, and not for what they're worth. I mean, they're great products and there's a lot of great reviews about them, and I'd love to have those exact products. It's just the thing is I just can't afford it right now. So what I've done is I just kind of taken this idea into my head, and I went down to Lowe's and I just kind of walked around for a while, and in the plumbing area, and just seeing what I could find that I could put together to make something like this work. So this is actually my second go around for the mounting system, which I'll kind of talk about here in a minute. But I've had it on the boat for about 3 months, and I've had no real issues with it. It's spiked down pretty good in the wind, a little bit in the current, and I mean, it's not a power pole or a Talon or something like that. Obviously, duals, but it works pretty good for what it is. So what I have here is, as you can tell, a pretty big piece of pipe. So this is a 10-foot section of black iron pipe. It'll run you about $20, and I estimate, I haven't done any measurements on it, but I imagine you can get about 9 or so feet of, if you're in about 9 or so feet of water, you can spike down in that based off of how high your boat sits and the type of bracket that you're going to build. Okay, because you're obviously going to lose some of that height, based on where the spike itself stops. All right, so here's a closer look at the actual mounting system that I've kind of came up with. So all these components here are black iron. That's black iron pipe that you can buy at Lowe's. And to start here at the bottom, I have a floor flange, and then I've got 3 sheet metal screws. What's good about this tracker, and it might not apply to your boat, but the deck of the back of my boat here is just an aluminum sheet riveted to the frame. So it's really easy to drill into, or if you had wood or something like that. But I'm not sure how it would work if you had fiberglass or something like that. So maybe just something to look into when you consider where you're going to mount it. So a couple places I considered mounting it other than this right here would be maybe somewhere back here. That way there'd be no damage to the deck, anything like that. And then on my first prototype, if you want to call it that, I actually had it mounted here to the motor mount. So what I did was I stuck the flange, that floor flange, just right here, and I ran the bolts through, and then my T would stick straight out, and then the spike would go down there. Well, the problem was I was having issues when I trimmed the motor. If these things came loose, then it would stop the motor from trimming down, and eventually what that did was shear the bolts off. So I'm actually lucky I didn't damage anything here, but I lost that first system, and I knew not to try it again. I'm sure there's another ways to solve that problem if you wanted to mount it right there. It's just not something I want to deal with, so I came up with this way to mount it. And this is based off my very first design when I was going to put it on the front of the boat. So going back here, so we have that floor flange, and then it comes up to about a 2-inch section of pipe here that they call a nipple, because it's threaded on both ends, to a 90-degree elbow, and then to another 6-inch nipple, or just a piece of pipe there that's threaded on both ends. And then that'll come down here to a T, and remember that this is a 1-inch fitting, and the pole that I have is a 3/4 inch. So something you could do is experiment with that. If you want to go with something smaller in diameter, a 1/2 inch or something like that, it's gonna be a little bit more flimsy. I chose the 3/4 because I thought it was the sturdiest for the weight. They have a 1-inch available, which is pretty beefy and pretty heavy, and I doubt that would ever bend, but I don't know, it's just not something I wanted to really mess with. I got the 3/4 inch. So when you guys are making your own, you'll have obviously all the freedom in the world to make this mounting configuration however you like. So this one, I think in the 1-inch fittings, the flange is about $7. These sections of pipe are $2 or $3. Elbows $2 or $3, and then I think the T here about $5. So what I did was I just measured out my distance here And then when I went and bought my pipe, you know, I just bought the sections I needed to be able to make, you know, to achieve this distance and get the spike kind of where I wanted. So as you can see, the pipe just slides right in and out here. And what I've done on the end, and it's pretty heavy. I mean, it probably was 10 or so pounds maybe. But what I did here on the end was I just kind of hacked it here at about a 45-degree angle. And then I stuffed the end cap here full of JB weld. That way it just wouldn't pack full of mud and things like that. I never tried it without cutting this on there, so I'm not sure if it is necessary or not, but I've had no issues with it. And then on the other side, I just put an end cap here. That way it doesn't go through this 1-inch tee. And where I store it at is pretty easy. I keep in mind my rods here. This is a 17-foot tractor, a little over 17 foot. I just make sure my rods ain't in the way, and then just slide it right up here. And then I kind of tuck it away there. You know, push it in here. And I have like this little recess back here that I'll push it underneath. That way it just doesn't blow out. And so far I've had no real issues with it as far as it swinging out or nothing like that, but that'll be just dependent on your own boat. So something else I considered was possibly even putting it up here. My original design, that's what I was going to do. It had that flange and then come up and over here. I chose not to go that way just because I didn't want the spike right here in front of me, and I thought it'd be harder to achieve that boat position that I wanted. But it's definitely something you can do. You know, there's a system already on the market that's what they do. They put one in the back and one in the front. So that looks like pretty promising, but really it'd just be up to you on how you want to tackle that. So when I was kind of coming up with an idea of where to place them out, what I had to consider was where I'd actually be spiking down at. In terms of when I get out there, you have to kind of read the wind or the current, and you have to position the boat in a way that when you spike it, that current or the wind will put you right on target, rather than you spinning and then you're fishing out of like the back side of the boat or something like that. So when you guys go to make your own, that's just something you have to kind of think about. What I did was I tried to put it as close to the center as possible. That way that little bit of like calculation almost would just be easier, because I knew it would be in a straight line. Alrighty guys, that's pretty much it. Pretty simple really, and there's a lot of freedom here to really make it however you want. So thanks for watching. If you have any feedback or any comments, any ways to improve it, just leave it down in the comment section. That way everybody can see it, and we can all find a way to make this just a little better and make it work for everybody. Alrighty, thanks guys.